guys, welcome back to Alaska Rural Homestead. I'm Michelle and today is July the 15th. I'm really late on getting this video out to you guys. I wanted to get it out a little bit sooner, but last year was the very first year that I ever put out a video for YouTube on growing great pumpkins and squash, and I also put out the video of the biggest harvest on the homestead. So if you guys haven't seen that, check it out. If you have, great. We do appreciate you guys subscribing to our channel, and we appreciate you so much more than you'll know. But you know that I love pumpkins and squash. For one, they really hold up well in our cold cellar, and for two, I just love them because for one, they're good for you, and for two, they feed some of our animals. Now we have chickens, turkeys, goats, bunnies, pigs, and one of our goals when we came to Alaska in 2005, it was our goal to be self-sufficient. Now, I knew that was going to be a hard life, but I knew that was a life for Mark and I, and we thrive on that kind of life, even though it's a hard life. And if it was up to me, I would totally live like a pioneer. I'd be wearing the clothing and everything. But enough of that. So as you can see, I have this sectioned off. I usually put some of our birds in here just so they can put more nutrients into the soil where I do plant my pumpkins and squash, because pumpkins and squash love really high nitrogen. So I guess we better get going. So you will see in the high tunnel here that I have small little rows throughout the high tunnel here. Now in this very first row, I have a few tomatoes here. I have my super sweet tomatoes, and then I also have a big boy tomato, and I think pretty much all of my tomatoes have tomato sets on them. And basically what I do for my tomatoes is that I just usually tap them with my hand because they are self-pollinators. I have never had to hand pollinate any of my tomatoes. Rarely do I have to pollinate any of my squash or pumpkins, just because we do have our bees on our property. So I'll show you what I have here. So right here I have my tung ho, which the tung ho is oriental kind of greens, and the flowers are also edible. I've got my nasturtiums here, and then down here I've got some mojito mint. I've also got my black-eyed Susan vines. Now those vines, the roots are edible, but the flowers themselves, along with the seeds, can be poisonous. So it's kind of useful to know. And my tomatoes are doing quite well. Just about all of them have fruit set on them. And these are the super sweet tomatoes. Okay, so in this little row here, I have more nasturtiums. I have the cherry rose jewel, and I also have the cup of sun. They haven't totally flowered yet. So I also have some of my gaillardia down here. It's an Indian type of flower. It means a blanket flower, and they haven't bloomed yet. And I also have some over here. I've got some pickling cucumbers. Okay, so these are my pickling cucumbers here. And then I've got my cardinal vines here. This is the first time I've grown these cardinal vines, but they are supposed to produce some really beautiful flowers. And I've got flowers hidden like everywhere here. So chamomile here, I've got elysium, I've got sunflowers, vanilla ice sunflowers, and then I've also got some catnip here. And my cucumber plants are really doing great so far. They are producing cucumbers. So I also have my pickling cucumbers here, which I'll come back and harvest those. I've got my fennel and my dill, which we've already been harvesting. I've got some more of my flowers here. And you'll notice that I have these little seed packets hanging up. These are cosmos here, which are planted along here. And then I have the Cupid mix zinnias, which are planted along here with some more of my cucumbers. And then back here, I've also got my eggplants going. I've got the black beauties and the long necks, and they are already producing fruit. They're doing really well this year. Okay. So let me see what else we have. Back here, I also have 2 of the Crimson Sweet watermelon. It's the first time that I have grown watermelon. And I'm not sure if they're going to really produce too much. But I do have some flowers on them, so that's a good sign. This right here is one of my yellow squashes. Few squashes to harvest on here in a day or two. I have more of my eggplant back here. So primarily on this side of the high tunnel, I have the majority of my pumpkins. I tried to do a little bit of separation here, but honestly, I get so excited with planting, I kind of get them put here and there. So I have the majority of my pumpkins on this side. I have the Cinderellas going. I also have the Casper pumpkins going. I have sweet pie pumpkins going. And then on this side of the wall here, this side of the fencing, I have the majority of my gourds going. These are gourds on this side of the wall. So here. I have the spinning gourds. I also have the loofah gourds going, and they are doing super well. So about every other year is what I will do is I will come and till this all up, and I'll make sure that I get in some good fertilizer. I'll put down cow manure. And underneath all this soil, we have logs that are decomposing. Even though it is really difficult for things to decompose, it not only feeds the soil, but it gives it a little bit of drainage also. So this is really fertile soil with lots of organics in here. And I also will come back and mix in some old straw that I have. I like to use the old straw just because the seeds are less likely to germinate. So there's a lot of straw mixed in here. And then down here I have some milkweed. I also have some more of the black-eyed Susan, and they are so pretty. Okay, so now we're looking from the opposite direction in the high tunnel. Now, you know, I have been growing pumpkins and squashes for many years, and oftentimes I get asked, well, why is my squash or pumpkins not producing female flowers? Because the first flower you're going to see is the male flower. But in order to produce female flowers and to get to the point where you are producing pumpkins and squash, you must have very high nitrogen. You've got to have a lot of good organics in your soil. So usually in the beginning of the season, when I get ready to plant my plants, I will put a good fertilizer underneath before I stick my plant in there. So I've also got a pumpkin over here that's already a pretty good size, and it's just awesome. So also I've got my rosemary here. I've also got some broadleaf sage. I've got some broadleaf sage over there, and it's just amazing. I love the smell. I've also got some little ones right here. I've also got some here. Anyways, we're going to go peek at the other side now. Okay, so this is a zucchini that I have going. This is a Black Beauty zucchini. And I'll be able to harvest that probably in a day or two. And then these are more of my pumpkins. Okay, right here I have some more yellow squash. So here it is, July the 15th. And I am a little behind. I'm a little disappointed that my plants are really not producing more than what they should be right now, because usually by now I'm already harvesting squashes and zucchini, but it's really starting to look like a jungle in here. I've got some more of my cucumber plants back there. I've got one right here. Okay, so in this little potting box here, I just love these little potting boxes because they are really awesome. You can just fill them full of water and it will self-feed your plants. The plants tend to gravitate towards the bottom. And in this little potting box, I have lots of edible flowers. I have my borage, I have calendula, I probably have some zinnias in here. So these are all edibles that I will be harvesting and putting them in the freeze dryer. So these are more of my nasturtiums going. These are the cherry rose jewels, and if you have never grown nasturtiums, the leaves are edible and also the flowers, which I love to take these and put them in the freeze dryer and use them in a lot of my dishes. And then right here I have some bachelor buttons, and these are also edible. And more edible flowers here along with more nasturtiums. And then I have more of the tung ho, which I had mentioned that the flowers are edible, and these are a type of oriental greens that will be going into the freeze dryer for soups and whatnot. All right, so this is my borage plant. These are edible little flowers. The flowers kind of give off like a cucumber taste, and they're really a different type of flavor. But anyways, other than these leaves having a different texture to them, you can come back and harvest these leaves, usually when they're a little bit smaller, and they're edible also. And then right here I have my hops. The hops is another attractant for the bees and pollinators. And this is also an edible plant, and it has almost like an anise type of flavor and scent to it. All right, then I've got a little bit of my echinacea here. I've got more nasturtiums. I've got some thyme. I've got some caraway going. I've also got some basil, which seems to be getting crowded out. Now these are my tomatillos. They are producing lots and lots of flowers. And over here I have some planted also that is producing a bunch of fruit. Now, one thing you might notice on my tomato plants is that they're all producing fruit right now, but I will come back and I will try to keep these lower limbs off the ground, and I'll go ahead and just trim them off. Any type of little leaves that are hitting this foliage here, I just go ahead and trim them off and get rid of them. That way it keeps a lot of disease away, and it's just gives the plant new life. Some more broadleaf lettuce here. I've got some more of my borage, and then more black-eyed Susan vines. I've got some of my cilantro going. Okay, I've got, these are jalapenos going. I've got to harvest them soon. You know, growing in a greenhouse is really great, but it has a tendency to be rather warm in here, and the aphids will infest your pepper plants if you're not careful. So usually about every other week I will take a hose and I will just douse these really well. And the aphids are like a soft-bodied little insect, and they will cause disease if you don't catch it really quick. So I try to do preventative maintenance on all my plants here. So anyways, we've got to harvest these soon because they are really producing well. Then I've got some zinnias here. These are the rainbow zinnias. I've also got my lovely stinging nettle. And then over here, I've got my dragon balm, which I love to start harvesting these right as they start producing these flowers. It has the most lovely lemon scent. And you can't see it right here, but we'll get a little clip of it, but I got some of my lavender going. Okay, so these are some of my zinnias going. They are pretty big, but I've got the Moulin Rouge and the Parisian Sun. And here, right here, I don't know if you guys can see it, but this is my hibiscus. And hibiscus really takes a long time to mature, so I don't really expect to really get that much out of it this year. And I really doubt it's going to make it through the winter. I've got my Thai basil here. I've got my sweet basil. I've got spearmint, lemon balm, marjoram. All right, so right along here I have my flat of Italy red onions. Now, if you've been watching our channel, you know out at the other garden plot that we have where we're putting the new NRCS high tunnel, I planted a lot of my red onions, and the ravens just went crazy over my onions and I could not figure it out. So luckily I've got some red onions planted in here. Here is my corn, that's super sweet corn. And then on the bottom here I've got early bush peas and sweet peas. Alright, so I've got some more of my zinnias going here. These are some of my chili peppers here. I've got more nasturtiums here. So along here I've got my chili peppers, I've got my Tibetan peppers here, I've got cayenne peppers, I've got roasting peppers, and they are all producing really well. My roasting peppers are already quite big, and I also have the rainbow roasting peppers, which are going to be kind of nice because they produce the red, the orange, and I think it's a purple pepper. Look at the size of those peppers already. And I've got some super sweet tomatoes, which are going really well. Now, throughout most of my gardening boxes, I put a lot of my eggshells in the soil. During the winter, I will use the eggshells and I'll put them in a little container on the wood stove, and that will get rid of any residue or any disease on the eggshell itself. So I've got some more pepper plants in here. These are my roasting peppers. More of the super sweet tomatoes. I've got Romas going. More of my zinnias. Now down here I have more nasturtiums. I have some of my lupine, and I've got one little morning glory. And the reason I have this stake here is because usually when I'm coming through here and watering, these poor little things will get tortured. So here is some of my calendula, peppers. Okay, so I've got more hibiscus going. I've got wild edible flowers in here. I've got tarragon, I've got safflower flowers, I've got some violets going, just lots of edible plants going here. So anyways, you guys, I've got to get harvesting a few things in here, so I really hope you guys enjoyed this and come along for another visit in the high tunnel. So thanks for stopping by, and don't forget to subscribe and like our channel. Bye now.